Today, I will be drawing Keith Haring.
Keith Haring was well known for his pop art style, and you may recognize his simplified icons of people and movement.
As usual, I'm going to be drawing the basic shapes. So a circle, some triangles, here and there, and then I'm going to roughly put in his features. His eyes, nose, mouth, etc. Here are some fun facts you may or may not know about Keith Haring. He was born on May 4th, 1958 in Reading, Pennsylvania. He learned his basic cartooning skills from his father and from the pop culture around him like Dr. Seuss and Walt Disney. And now that I've done this rough sketch, I'm going to create new line art on top of this layer by creating a new layer. While he initially went to school for graphic art at Ivy School of Professional Art, he soon realized he didn't want to be a commercial artist and dropped out after 2 semesters. He studied on his own for a while and eventually had a solo exhibition at the Pittsburgh Arts and Crafts Center in 1978. Later in that year, he enrolled at SVA, New York School of Visual Arts. He found a community of alternative artists that weren't bound by the museum and art gallery systems. He became friends with Kenny Scharf and Jean-Michel Basquiat, and eventually began to participate in organized events with this alternative arts group at varying venues, one being Club 57. Haring, while ultimately a very innovative and progressive artist, also took inspiration from artists such as Jean Dubuffet, Pierre Alinsky, William Burroughs, Brown Ginson, and Robert Henry's manifesto, The Art Spirit, which was about the fundamentals of an independent artist. These inspired him to create his own graphic style that's solely focused on line work. Christoph Vladimirov Javachev was also an inspiration to Haring, specifically his piece Running Fence, which gave him the want to create truly public artwork. Now that I'm done my clean line work, I'm going to be creating a new layer underneath this layer to do the coloring. You may notice the colors I'm choosing are different from the reference image, and that's because I am referencing colors from different images I've found of Keith Haring on Google. As an SVA student, Haring experimented with performance, video, installation, and collage, though he stayed faithful to drawing as his primary artistic medium. One day, Haring became interested in using the matte black paper that was posted on top of unused advertising panels as a medium, and with white chalk would draw on top of them throughout the subway system. Sometimes he'd make up to 40 drawings a day, and commuters would begin to recognize and engage with him while he drew. Haring himself said that the subway became somewhat of a laboratory for him, where he would experiment with his work. Now that I'm done the base colors, I'm going to start shading in with darker colors. A little tip I have for you is to not shade with black. Instead, choose the skin color that you put for the base color and then make it darker but saturated. You can see it in the color wheel. From 1980 to 1989, Haring gained international recognition and participated in numerous group and solo exhibitions. His first solo exhibition was in the Westbeth Painter Space in 1981. The next year, his Soho debut was at the Tony Shafrazi Gallery, which was immensely popular and highly acclaimed. Other things he participated in within the early 80s included animation for the spectacular billboard in Times Square, designing sets and backdrops for theaters and clubs, developing watch designs for Swatch, and an advertising campaign for Absolute Vodka. During all of this, he still created murals worldwide. Haring spent the majority of his time on public works throughout his career. His mural, Crack is Whack, of 1986 has become a landmark along New York's FDR Drive. He created over 50 public works between 1982 to 1989 in dozens of cities around the world. Many of these were for charities, hospitals, children's daycare centers, and orphanages. In 1988, Haring was diagnosed with AIDS, leading him to create the Keith Haring Foundation. Its goal was to raise funding and imagery to AIDS organizations and children's programs. He spent the last years of his life raising awareness and generating activism about AIDS. While his career was brief, it was intense, participating in over 100 group and solo exhibitions, and was the subject of over 40 newspaper and magazine articles in 1986 alone. He participated in collaborations with a wide range of individuals, such as Madonna, Grace Jones, Bill T. Jones, William Burroughs, Timothy Leary, Jenny Holzer, Yoko Ono, and Andy Warhol. And now that I'm done that, I'm going to be coloring in the background. I'll be replicating his style of artwork in the background, since this is an homage to him. At the age of 31, Haring died of AIDS-related complications on February 16, 1990. His memorial service had over 1,000 attendees. To this day, Haring's work is still widely recognized and loved by a modern audience, with modern apparel brands such as Uniqlo, Urban Outfitters, and Adidas using his work to create clothing lines inspired by his work. He created works that express universal ideas about birth, death, love, and war, with an intensely direct and simplistic approach that was, and still is, very appealing to the public eye. And after some post-production, here it is, the final piece.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Please share it with a fellow art nerd, and if you love receiving quality and free art education, subscribe.